Hi, guys. So, welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, I'm lucky to be joined by what I would now class as a good friend of mine, Folkert. He runs Adsplicit, who are a multi-language creative first ads agencies. And essentially, what they do is they help English speaking D2C brands or brands in non Anglo markets expand into kind of other non Anglo speaking markets within Europe. So over the past 5 years, he's driven over $10 million in ad spend and produced over 10,000, which is absolutely insane, but over 10,000 multi-language ads for a range of clients. So I'm sure if you live in the EU, you've probably seen some of his work. So without further ado, Folkert, welcome. It's great having you here.
Thanks a lot for the invite.
Cool. Well, look, getting straight to it then, I just want to start by talking about Adsplicit. It's a pretty unique idea in the space. What was it that you were kind of inspired to start?
Well, first of all, thanks, of course, for being here. It started actually by just request from our clients. I've been starting sort of as a freelancer, and from there, clients started, hey, we also would like to go to Germany. I'm personally Dutch, which of course borders with Germany, so it's easy for most brands to go to Germany. But German people speak German instead of Dutch. So from there, this idea to go into more of a multi-language focus and help companies making those bigger steps, bigger jumps, became more of the request and the priority, and made us our main business nowadays, which is quite a jump from the start.
Okay, so did brands start off coming to you for kind of international expansion and for that language capability?
No, so originally we started with Dutch ads only, but I would say most brands, it depends per country, but most brands, they cap on a certain level of revenue. Let's say 2 million ish in Holland, let's say 30 million or 20 million in Germany. If they want to grow, if they want to like follow the US brands, they have to go into other countries in Europe to still get that big revenue numbers in and just keep growing, especially if they don't have any recurring products. So it's just a natural behavior that they want to go into those other languages as well.
So to scale further beyond the kind of initial domestic markets.
Exactly, and especially if you have a non-recurring or a low recurring product. Let's say you're selling towels. Well, you cannot keep emailing those people. So you either need to drop hard on your ROAS if you want to keep growing in one specific language region, and otherwise you have to just expand your audience to keep growing as well.
Okay. And are there specific countries or common countries or geographies that people typically expand to next after they've capped out that initial region?
Yeah, it's quite a similar trend, to be honest. Most companies start with Germany because it's the biggest market in the EU. So they always think, if I get Germany, I get a huge it's sort of work compared to upside is a really easy equation to get right. And secondly, is the Scandinavian countries. So Sweden and Denmark are normally the priorities there, since Norway is really expensive on shipping. So those tend to be the most interesting ones for most brands. Back in the day, it was the UK as well, but of course, border issues made it a little bit harder to ship now to the UK. So most brands opt in inside instead of going the other side of the ocean.
Okay. And I notice, is that also kind of the countries in Europe that have the highest GDP per capita or disposable income as well?
Yeah, definitely. So Holland I think Holland has the number one on e-commerce penetration, non-English speaking. And then I think the Scandinavian countries follow, and then it's Germany. If you go Southern Europe, your ad behavior also changes, and all those metrics change a lot. So it's a bit different to scale there as well. Also depends where you are in the country. So generally speaking, Northern Europe is the highest income and the highest scalable markets that way as well. So
okay. And that was actually going to be my next question, what you touched on there. So how does ad behavior and the kind of metrics change by geography?
So it's all CPM driven. So if you've ever run any ads in the US and you hear people hear the numbers, they like CPMs and cost per clicks from Europe, they're already like, whoa, it's a completely different world. So in the US, like a $2 cost per click is amazing. If you run in Europe, you will be disappointed if it's above €1 normally. So there's already a 50% CPM difference normally. But if you, for example, go from Germany to Italy or to Spain or to France, you can get like 20-cent cost per click without any conversions. So you get your ad conversion, your ad numbers look great, really good hook rate. So people are sticking along, they keep watching for really long, they click as well, but then they don't convert, which in Germany and the Nordics can be a little bit different. So Germany tends to have the highest CPMs, but also a higher conversion rate. Where in Italy, France, Spain, and let's say the Baltics, you can get like a almost ridiculous cost per click number. So a lot of traffic, but if you then present them a product of 100 euros, they tend to bounce. So then it's harder to optimize those campaigns, generally speaking, because you just need a lot of volume instead of you can rely on your ad numbers to find, okay, this angle works better than that angle, for example.
So why do those regions like Southern Europe have worse conversions?
Well, the GDP is way lower. So I just have been on a road trip beginning of April with my girlfriend for 2 months throughout Europe. And in Holland, if you go out for a pizza here is like 15 euros each. And if you go to Germany, it'll probably be like 12 euros. But if you go to Italy, it's like 6 euros. So that's basically the difference in GDP as well. Like people are not poor, but they're like the GDP level is just different. So if you then present them the same product with the same cost of goods sold and the same labor and the same shipping cost, it's just 2 times as expensive for them, which also makes it a little bit less competitive on the ads. So your CPMs will be lower that way.
Okay. Are there any other, let's call them emerging regions that you're looking at outside of, maybe DACH, Germany and the Nordics?
Yeah.
Is there anywhere outside of that?
Well, Belgium is always with it sort of this easy add-on, like the Flemish region, because it's also a bit richer. Outside Europe, we're sometimes now also targeting Dubai if people can ship. So like we target higher income regions that are not US to still like scale any ad campaigns. And we try to bundle every now and then with English ads because there are too many different languages as well, like the Balkan and the Eastern Europe, because they have a similar trend to Italy, but even slightly lower income level as well. So that can be like a nice add-on if you already have any English campaigns. For all the other regions and countries, it's just dedicated language per country still.
Okay. Shifting gears then slightly. Obviously, like this is a very different business model to most ads agencies. What are the main challenges that you have that most of these other guys don't?
Well, creative is always, it's always almost in the name, it's creative. So there's always a discussion of brand in place. So if we're running ads, and we started running ads as an ad agency, so just managing ad campaigns, then your only metric is performance. So how does it perform? If it's good, you don't have any big discussions. Nowadays, there's of course, you have a physical product that needs to be delivered with a lot of complexity. I think that's the biggest bottleneck. And then secondly, we of course have to align with any brand preferences, brand guidelines that are not as hard as data.
So yeah, look, I think, could you just talk to me about the process behind how you get creative from different countries? And I'm assuming you're using different native creators, right?
Yeah. So generally speaking, we make one video that we can then roll out into different languages. So that means that we don't have any speaking heads in all of the videos we make. So we start with scripting, which is generally speaking in English, because my team is natively English mainly. And then from there, we iterate into the different languages by translating them by a local. And those locals then also record the voiceovers, which are also local that way. And from there, we can make all the variations in different languages and everything.
Okay, interesting. And I think you mentioned at the start that you started off as, just a media buying agency working locally. Mm-hmm. If you could go back in time and speak to yourself then, do you have any advice or anything that you do differently when starting the agency?
Actually, I've been reviewing a lot the last months, sort of to make this next stage on the next steps as a company. And that would be just to go to the big boys straight away. Don't like to skip mainly all the smaller brands which you like to work with, because you can really help them. You think you see the passion, you have a common vibe with those founders. But the big impact is there to be made on the brands that are already doing 10, 15 million a year. And there you can really accelerate and have a big impact. And I think I've wasted too much time at the beginning of my agency career on wanted to do good for smaller brands and really help them get from, let's say, 30 grand or 20 grand to 100 grand, which is great. But from a business perspective, maybe not the best focus as an agency.
Okay. And for those kind of larger, more enterprise-sized brands, how do you do outreach to them, and what's your kind of pitching process and sales process?
So, also that adapted a lot. So I've been testing a lot with ads lately, which is a little bit harder for those brands. They can still work, but for us, the most effective way is still cold email. Okay. So just cold emailing them, they still tend to work quite well. Referrals is a good one. So still people, you need to network a little bit with those people sometimes. And we are now playing a bit more with LinkedIn as well, being way more active there, and then start blending that with warm outreach after we have been engaging with those people. And that they've been seeing, hey, these guys can, especially with the multi-language part, they need to warm up and they need to have some sort of experience already going into those different markets. And then we can really help them to make sure, hey, these guys are already playing in those markets, so they understand all the mistakes we talk about that they make. So LinkedIn works the best for us on that level.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're kind of pulling entirely or mostly on the international expansion, multi-language angle for that.
Yeah, so the ideal client on that case is already has been testing a little bit already on different markets. So they have some ads running in Germany. In most cases, they're running in English, for example. If that's the case and they already get some results that way, it's normally sort of an easy step in. Because things are working and we just expand their audience by 200-300% because we go locally. So everyone is now understanding our ads. Then hopefully have already a German website, for example. So then the whole funnel becomes native. Okay. And you can really stretch your legs on the ads then.
That's really interesting. So there's a couple of points from that. One, are you like targeting based on where you can see ads are live in certain countries? Like, are you filtering that before you do outreach? And two, are you converting their funnel, or is that taken care of by the client?
Well, firstly, we check the ad library a lot for those brands. So before we do any warm outreach, one, do they run any ads? Due to European guidelines, they now need to show you in the ad library all the non-active ads as well. So you can also see if they have been testing any German, so you can see all the languages in the regions you have been targeting. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, if we start working with them, we don't have any copywriters or something from a long form perspective in-house. But we have some referrals we make if people really need to translate the whole website to German or to English. Even though sometimes we just say, hey, just go with Weglot or like one of those translation apps first to just show the initial traction. We've actually been running for one of our clients in Germany and France with a Dutch website, but with a German and a French ad, which sounds ridiculous. It's a little bit. But then you start on a native part. So you have the first funnel or the first step in your funnel is as big as possible. And maybe you have a little bit higher bounce rate, but at least you don't have this first funneling already inside your ads. So let's say you have a good ad in German on a medium translated website, you know what to fix, but at least you have the full bucket on top. Where if you, for example, start with an English ad on top and then to a German website or an English website, you already start quite narrow. So it's harder to even get the water flowing through your funnel in your pipeline.
Okay, no, interesting. And then I know we just touched around kind of your background and how you started. Can you just walk me through the journey from coming out of college or school to becoming founder of the marketing agency? Yeah,
so I would personally describe it as a little bit it escalated a little bit. So I've been doing my bachelor's of applied science, and I was okay. I want to do a master's. So in Holland, you have like this bachelor-master setup. But to do that, I needed to do like a transition year and a GMAT exam. So I was like, okay, let's take 6 months to really define if I want to commit on this GMAT and this next 3-4 year commitment on that. That's the master degree. So I got the opportunity to do to implement my graduation research for a company in the Netherlands as a freelancer. I started doing dropshipping on the side, and from there, actually, I sort of spiraled. Well, dropshipping was quite okay, but I just didn't really like the rat race of finding new products and not really building a proper system. Actually, made the same mistakes with English ads and everything already back in those days. But from there, transitioned from dropshipping actually by accident in towards more of a freelance jobs of managing any ads. And then end of 2020, started hiring people, focusing more on the clients. One of those people is still with us today. And from there, started incorporating more and more creative. End of 2021, we're hiring a full-time content creator as well. And since last year, it's just full content all the way, and just hired our 8th team member as well.
Congrats. So you said content all the way. Do you still do media buying as well?
We do, but our main offering is the creative. It's a bit of an open door, but creative is your targeting is, of course, what's being said a lot nowadays, which is still true. So if we cannot really control the creative and the creative strategy, it's quite hard to get like the big jumps of results. Of course, if you run like $1 million a month, a media buying only like offering can work. But for us, the creative is such a fundamental part of getting the results and having the grip on next steps we can take for a client. It's a no-go for us to just, first creative. And if we can help you out on your media buying, sure, but not a must. Creative only is also fine for us.
What percentage of clients roughly would you say that you do media buying as well?
Well, actually, it's still 50 to 60%, because often we either come in and then in a few months' time we find out that they actually need media buying as well, or the founder likes to start with only creative because they still do the ads themselves, and then they find, hey, you guys know what you're doing. You gave me a lot of tips. They work as well. I will now just give you the full freedom there as well to fully integrate as a team as well.
Okay. And on the media buying side, is there certain platforms that you work on, or is it all social?
Yeah, so we only do social. No Google. I fundamentally believe that Google people are different kind of people. And if you let the Google people do any ads on social, it tends to, not do so great compared to how it could be doing. We do a little bit of TikTok, a little bit of Pinterest, but our bread and butter is Facebook and Instagram still. Also do because of the European behavior of platforms. TikTok is just not as big as it is in the US. So it's more of like, hey, can we also push some on TikTok here instead of having a dedicated focus for us? I would say 90% is still the Meta platform for us.
Okay. And in terms of volume of creative, what does that look like? So, by spend, how many pieces of creative should I be testing? And what does that look like?
So our smallest package we offer, which is sort of for 20 to 30K a month ad spends, is 40 creatives a month for one language. And even all the way to 10K a month, that's actually the minimum, which basically means that you can just test 3 new creatives every 3 days. So you don't need to hold on too long on your creatives. You can just keep refreshing and keep going for big swings all the way till you find your big winners. If you go to more like 50, 60K a month, you do it times 1.5. And then if you go like 100K or more, you will need to have like 100 plus creatives a month. But then, of course, you're spending a lot. So then you can focus on more video. You have way more data points. So you can optimize for way smaller benefits, smaller use cases. Otherwise, if your budgets are small, you need to focus on the bigger buckets there.
Okay, so it's roughly every $1,000 a month in ad spend, you need a new creative to test.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, so even if you we all say if you have 1,500 euros a month to test, you can just test 3 creatives every 3 days on 50 euros a day, and just keep testing that way. Waste all your ad budget, but still keep learning, which should be able to bring you to 10K a month or more. And after that, you can start focusing more, bigger budgets on the same creatives. But then people tend to plateau on two ways. One, they don't fill in enough little niches inside with their ad spend. And secondly, they just don't push enough budget. So they test on still on 20 euros a day where they should be testing on 100. But if you test on 100, you also need to have better creatives and maybe a little bit more because you want to kill them faster because the data comes in so much faster as well.
And how different are those pieces of creative?
You mean from a types of like design and everything?
Yeah, are they the same body? Are they different looks? What does that look like?
So our product offering, which is actually quite a competitive compared to like what other agencies are doing, is there's a part of static, so pictures, infographics, those type of creatives. There's a part of shorts, which we call all the creatives that are sub 15 seconds. These can be animations, can be short GIFs, those type of things, or 3 to 5 shot fast edits where you just showcase the product or one big call out. And then of course we always deliver at least one a week bigger videos, which is like one big concept, one big storyline of a video where we have multiple hooks and everything as well. On all the statics, all the hooks or all the shorts, we always make 3 variations, and every variation can either be a different first shot or a different headline or a slightly different design with the same messaging as well.
So this is a lot of content, right, that you're delivering and across many different regions. How do you keep up to date with trends in the countries and all of that stuff?
So it's been a lot of reading and scrolling through social media as well at night just to get up with all the ideas there. We actually, our 8th hire is a full-time creative strategist. Her role will be finding all those little niches and opportunities, and just being in the trenches all day.
And just on that point, how have you found hiring a creative strategist?
Harder than I thought. I was always thinking there are quite some people in the creative space nowadays, or there are a lot of people interested. So I think we got like 300 appliances or something on our job offering. So there was a lot of opportunity, but a lot of the people didn't have any experience on direct response and social. So most of the people in creative strategy or still think about their brand strategy, which is also a creative strategy, but it's a slightly different creative strategy than we need and we were looking for. But luckily, we found someone that was in the most direct response market possible. But it takes a lot of filtering on the like the little messages and asking pre-vetting questions as well. Yeah. Because if just asking, did you do anything about creative strategy or what's your vision on the strategy, you really need to go deep on, do you have any experience on Meta and any, like how many creatives have you been focusing on and how many hooks did you make? What's your hook rate? Like all those little nitty gritty stuff to really find the people that understand already what's a creative strategist for direct response, Facebook and Meta ads.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And next question is kind of the future for Adsplicit. So are there any trends that you're trying to kind of capitalize or jump on? And where do you see the agency going forward?
So my big ambition is 10 million a year and 50 people like as a team. That's like the dot on the horizon, which will mean that we probably need to diversify our offering a little bit from only creative and media buying on social to a little bit wider, let's say landing pages, translations, so we can have a bigger offering to really help people go into those different markets. That will be my dream there. And also I would like to go a little bit wider than only Europe. So also going into Asia, for example, which is even a different market, different complexity levels, or the Middle East. So we can really help people in all those languages that no one is speaking and build the trust in those regions for them. So they can really trust, okay, as long as I have them on board, I can keep doing stuff internally. I don't need to hire a ton of people internally that are experts in every single region. But almost that we are their distributor online from a media perspective for all those different regions and localization.
Okay, so it's more languages and more services.
More languages and also the back-end services. So making sure your website is okay, making sure it's optimized for those languages. And I'm still looking for really good partners on all those regions for shipping and making sure all the payment setups are right. for example, Germany, people and in Italy as well, people still pay at the door, which is quite a common thing for older people. So yeah, we haven't found a partner yet that can help us do that on a reliable and a good pricing, which of course will be really valuable for our clients if they can offer it with a low risk setup. So they can just, okay, sure, we can also offer it from like 55, 60 plus people, which is quite a big audience, of course.
Nice. And do you see yourself always being based in Netherlands, or would you go overseas?
I think I will stay registered here for a while. We've been doing sort of a digital nomad trip for the last 7 months, and I really like being on the go. So just not being on one place. I fell in love with Hong Kong, so I'm not sure how long that will be such a nice place. Same with Taiwan. So we both like both countries, which is not ideal, but they're both really, really good. So I would like to spend a bit more time there. Well, I have a girlfriend as well, and she works for a Dutch company. So as long as that's the case, we'll be here for at least a few months a year to make sure she can still have her job as well.
But is that in a few months of the year there, and then the rest of the year traveling, or what is that?
Yeah, so now we need to be at least 4 months, 5 months a year in Holland. And then now in January, we can go again for a few months because she needs to be here in November, December. And then we probably want to go back to Asia since the time zone differences. It just makes life easier and more focused on moving things forward because you're like 7-8 hours ahead of the European time zone. So you can already get a lot of stuff done. And I just really like the culture and the food and everything. I just really, really like the lifestyle there. I'm not really a Bali type of person. More, I like to have these Chinese or a bit more alternative countries where you're like the only foreign person they spoke to in like a year or something, but still in a developed place as well. And that was actually the thing we found in Hong Kong and Taiwan the most.
So it's the next steps to get some clients out there.
We have been hiring or at least doing some outreach, but I didn't crack the code yet. Since of course market dynamics are so much different, and especially the Chinese region, and like they're a bit more traditional in outreach and just building the network. So you just really need to be there to build the partnerships and the trust with those people. But I really believe that the biggest opportunities for us as an agency are not in the helping European brands grow in Europe. It's actually helping US brands and Asian brands grow in Europe, or the other way around. Because then like the culture gap is there as well. So you don't only have the language gap, you also have the culture gap that needs to be crossed, which is of course a higher value service we can provide there.
Interesting. So you still think the opportunity is helping people enter Europe rather than kind of European brands go the other way?
Yeah, well, Europe is, I think, the second largest, or even the largest economy the second largest economy on the world. If you combine all the countries into like one major economy, so there's like a gigantic opportunity still, but it's so fragmented. So the fragmentation makes it hard. Where the US is quite a clean perspective where you need to go. Asia is quite clean because the markets are really big. So like, go to China, you have 1.3 billion people. Go to India, you have 1.3 billion people. Go to Vietnam, you have 200 million, I think even. Like you have a lot of people in one country, so you can do a lot in one country. Where in Europe, you really need to sort of not optimize on the culture, but on the languages for all those different countries as well, which is a challenge if you don't speak any of those languages. Of course, you need to trust and rely on the translators.
So you become the bridge into Europe.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
And then
in terms.
Sorry. No, there's a lot of ideas we still have as an agency. Like of course, there's the software route and the more of a internal team building, but that's more maybe our little secret we want to develop over the next few years.
For sure. No, I look forward to seeing that, man. Cool. And I guess, look, we can't talk about the future without talking about AI. So could you just give me a few ways, if you are using AI in your agency, what you're using it for, and how you see that playing out?
Yeah. Well, we have 3 main places where we use it. One is on the research. So we download all the the text we get from clients, like all their website text, everything, together with all the reviews they have been collecting over the years, to feed into ChatGPT for us, to build that way our own little GPT per client, so we can vet it and everything there. That's a really strong way to get headlines for your static creators. From there, we use not only ChatGPT for that, we use it a lot for like building shot lists, because, well, over time you can, especially if you need to write like 10, 15 scripts a week, you can become a little bit repetitive. Okay, I need to have a shot of this, I need to have a shot of this. So that's a place where we use it a lot. We are currently testing out on labeling all the shots we make for clients, so that we can just feed all the shots like raw footage we get from clients, to make sure we get proper labeling in place, so we don't need to spend hours scanning all the raw files and all the shots they made in the last 2, 3, 4 years, for example. And lastly, it's sort of more of a future way I like to build, is to also like do hypothesis building and looping back on the data, so that we just feed it the data and it just makes the conclusions on the creatives ourselves. But it's a bit more of a smaller. I did some small tests, but it's not really time efficient yet, because you first need to download everything and put in the hypothesis. So you need to build the whole spreadsheet. But if we are able to do that, it will be a next level stage.
How do you stay up to date with all of this? Is it you personally kind of driving this, or do you have consultants or go to?
I try to sort of close my eyes a little bit every now and then for AI, to be honest. Not because I don't think it will be a big thing, but you can just be busy 80 hours a week just checking all the opportunities and all the new things you can do. So every now and then I just see something new on YouTube or on LinkedIn of a thing people are doing. I'm like, hey, we can maybe do this in this way for our agency as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any tips for how other agency owners can be using?
Well, in terms of tips, I would say it's it's just playing with it, and don't spend too much time on your AI game, to be honest. Just if you think it can be valuable and you find the right answers, just do it. But don't try to find a use case for AI if you don't even do it yet. I just see a lot of people are trying to build this whole systems and everything with AI, but they don't even deliver the service yet. Just first do the manual work. If you're like, maybe this might be something for AI, then you have a really quick use case. It's not too much time to build it, but don't spend too much time on all the little opportunities that feels huge if you see them, but for most agencies they are way too small to really build them and use them.
Okay. Well, look, Folkert, that brings us to the end of the interview. I really appreciate you kind of taking the time to jump on today. If people are interested in what you do, where can they find you?
Well, easiest place is LinkedIn. My name is Folkert van der Spek. You will see it on the screen as well. There you can just reach out, ask any questions. Everyone can email me as well at folkert@adsplicit.com. And just to see the work from the agency, the creatives we make, it's mainly on adsplicit.com, where you can find our whole portfolio. And on YouTube, if you search for my name, you will find a recent webinar we did on creative as well, and multi-language, so how you can systematize and build the systems in-house as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, thanks again for the time. And guys, if you're listening and you're looking to enter different European markets with native ad creative, reach out to Folkert. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.